My mill had always disliked me and my son for my previous marriage, but a week before my wedding, she had a change of heart and invited my son to spend the day with her and my Sill's daughter. But later that evening Sill's daughter called me in tears and said, he wasn't waking up, so Grandma left him behind. Mill is paying the price after my hubby denied bailing her out, and now she's rotting behind bars while we enjoy our special day. I, 34, female, should be happy about my wedding day, but my emotions are all over the place. Yesterday was wonderful in so many ways, marrying Henry, 36 male, the man who has always been there for me. But it is hard to shake everything that happened. I have a son from my previous marriage, Ben, 7 male. For some context, Ben is my son from my first marriage to Finn, my late husband. Finn passed away unexpectedly when Ben was only 2, leaving me to raise him on my own. Ben and I have always been a team. Ben is my son from my first marriage to Finn, my late husband. Finn passed away suddenly when Ben was just 2, leaving me to raise him on my own. From the moment he was born, he became my whole world. Losing Finn was incredibly hard, and there's no way to fully explain the pain of that loss. Ben was too young to understand why Daddy was not coming home. It broke my heart every time he asked for Finn or pointed to his picture with that look of confusion. But no matter how tough it got, Ben was my reason to keep going. Being a single mom was hard. I had to balance a full-time job, pay bills, and manage all the emotional weight of trying to be everything for Ben. I barely had time for myself, and honestly, I was not even thinking about dating. My focus was on making sure Ben felt safe and loved. That is why meeting Henry was such a surprise. I was not looking for a relationship when I ran into him one afternoon at the park. I had taken Ben there to play, and Henry was there with his niece, Violet, 7 female. Ben and Violet hit it off right away. Henry and I ended up sitting on a bench nearby, chatting while we watched the kids. There was something about him, his calm, steady presence, that made me feel instantly at ease. He listened as I had talked about Ben and Finn, not with pity but with genuine interest. After that day, Henry and I kept running into each other. It turned out he lived nearby, and soon enough we were meeting up intentionally for playdates with the kids. What struck me most about Henry was how effortlessly he connected with Ben. He never treated him like someone else's child. Instead, he saw him as a bright, curious little boy who just needed someone to show up for him. As our relationship grew, Henry became more than just my boyfriend. He became a father figure to Ben. He went to school events, helped with bedtime stories, and learned how to use an EpiPen for Ben's peanut allergy without me even asking. He did not have to do any of that, but he wanted to. For the first time since Finn's death, I felt like I could breathe. Henry was not just there for me. He was there for us, and that made all the difference. It all comes down to my mother-in-law, Ida, 60 female. Ida has always been a tough and headstrong woman who puts a lot of importance on appearances and being in control. Her advice often came off as criticism, and she had sky-high expectations for everyone around her. When Henry first introduced me to Ida, she made her feelings about me pretty clear, even if she was subtle about it. I was not the ideal wife she had in mind for her son. As a widow with my young son, Ben, I did not fit her picture of someone who could fully commit to Henry without any baggage. She was polite but kept her distance, and her cold attitude showed that she did not consider me or Ben part of her family. Ida never bothered to get to know Ben or build any kind of relationship with him. While Henry stepped up as a father figure, Ida seemed to think he was taking on too much responsibility. She masked her comments as a concern, but it was clear she was judging him. At family events, Ida would ignore Ben entirely, or make comments about how kids need their real fathers. She once said in a room full of people that Henry should not feel obligated to share his resources with another man's child. She barely even tried to hide her dislike. Ida's issue was not just with me, it was that Henry's life did not align with her vision for him. She wanted to control how everything played out, and our family did not fit her idea of perfection. As time went on, her actions only drove a wedge between us, making her disapproval hard to overlook. Avery, 39 female, my sister-in-law, has always been a source of kindness and support in my life. From the moment I met her, she welcomed me with open arms, treating Ben and me like family without hesitation. While other family members were standoffish or judgmental, Avery went out of her way to make us feel included. She has been a really good friend, whether it's offering advice, lending a listening ear, or stepping in to defend us when needed. She was always available. Her daughter, Violet, shares her mother's charm and is one of Ben's closest friends. Avery is one person who constantly reminds me that I should not pay attention to their mother and her comments. A week before the wedding, Ida suddenly reached out. She was being sweet, almost unnervingly so. She said she wanted to build a better relationship with Ben before the wedding and invited him to spend the day with her and Violet. She promised to take them to lunch, a movie, and for ice cream. A fun day out for the kids. I was taken aback. This was so out of character for Ida that it felt suspicious. Henry, ever the optimist, thought it was a sign she was finally coming around. He encouraged me to give her a chance to let her prove that she could be a positive influence in Ben's life. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Ben was excited. He has always wanted either to like him, and the idea of a day with her and Violet thrilled him. That morning, I packed his EpiPen. He has a severe peanut allergy and went over his allergy protocol again, even though Ida knew about it. I also reminded her to call me if there were any issues. Throughout the day, I texted Ida a couple of times to check in. Her replies were short. Everything's fine or they're having fun. She's someone who replies to texts with really big paragraphs, so when I saw how small her texts were, I was concerned. But I tried to convince myself that maybe she was just busy focusing on the kids. That evening I got a call and it was Viola. Her voice was shaky and she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. What I did catch made my blood run cold. She said Ben was not waking up, so Ida left him behind. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. What did she mean? Left him behind? I asked her where they were. Between sobs, Violet gave me the address of a park about 20 minutes away. Me and Henry left as fast as we could. When we arrived, I saw Ben sitting on a bench with a park security guard. He was pale, his mouth was swollen, and he looked like he had been crying. The security guard explained that he had found Ben alone, crying and visibly unwell, and had been trying to keep him calm. We rushed Ben to the hospital where doctors confirmed he had had an allergic reaction. They said it was fortunate. He had not gone into full anaphylaxis, but his symptoms were serious enough that he needed immediate treatment. It turns out Ida had taken the kids to a bakery and let Ben eat a cookie that likely contained traces of peanuts. Despite knowing his allergy, she did not bother to check or ensure he was safe. When he started showing symptoms, difficulty breathing, dizziness, she panicked. Instead of calling for help, she abandoned him. She abandoned my child. She told Violet to keep quiet about what happened and left Ben behind like he was nothing. The hospital kept Ben overnight for observation. I barely slept and I sat beside him throughout the night. How could anyone be so cruel, so callous? Henry was furious. As soon as Ben was stable, he called his mother, demanding an explanation. Ida did not pick up, but she texted a flippant excuse. I panicked. I did not know what to do. No apology, no acknowledgement of the danger she put Ben in. Henry decided to report her to the police. He said it was not just about us. It was about holding her accountable and making sure she could not harm anyone else. I agreed. What if the security guard had not found Ben? What if we had been too late? Ida was arrested. She called Henry from jail, begging him to bail her out, but he refused. When Henry decided not to bail Ida out, she turned to Avery for help, but Avery turned her down too. Avery was furious, not only about what Ida did to Ben but also because Ida dragged Violet into it by asking her to lie. As a mom, Avery could not overlook the fact that Ida put Violet in such a tough spot. This situation made Avery set a firm boundary with her mother. In the past she had tried to keep things calm, but this time, Ida's behavior went too far. The wedding went off without a hitch, but it had a bittersweet vibe. Henry and I did our best to concentrate on each other and our family, but the weight of recent events never left our minds. Now, Ida is sitting in jail, facing charges for what she did. I feel no guilt. Since Henry and I got into a relationship, I have dealt with and respected Ida no matter what she did, but she finally went too far and there is no going back from this. I cannot see myself ever forgiving her for what she did to my son. So AITA for letting my mother-in-law rot in jail instead of bailing her out? Update 1. Hey, so I'm back with an update. It has been about a month since our wedding. We had the most amazing honeymoon ever. Now, on to Idaho. She was bailed out of jail by her sister a week or two back and, of course, she reached out to us. I was not surprised to hear from her. She called Henry, I think 3 days back. Henry saw her, but did not pick up. He already knew that if he answered, it would only lead to his mother trying to guilt-trip him and saying terrible things about me and Ben. So, Ida left multiple messages. In her initial messages, she went on about how angry she is, how sorry she feels for herself. She called out Henry and Avery for being ungrateful, acting like all the things she had done for them over the years should give her a free ride for the damage she had done. To either, nothing was ever enough. She constantly made Henry feel like he owed her everything, even though she had emotionally manipulated him his entire life. She did not see herself as a person who made mistakes. She saw herself as someone who was entitled to others' devotion because of everything she had sacrificed. The fact that Henry and Avery had finally begun distancing themselves from her did not sit well with her, and she hated it. As her anger grew, she tried a different tactic: guilt. She told Henry he owed her his life, as if she had made all these sacrifices for him, and now it was his turn to give back. She painted herself as a martyr, someone who had given up her life for him. The wife-slave comment in particular was a reminder of how she saw her relationship with her late husband, as if she had been nothing but a servant to him and everyone around her. This was typical of Ida. She never recognized how much harm she had caused by placing unrealistic expectations on those she supposedly loved. Everything she did for Henry was always conditional. She did it because she expected something in return. The more she spoke, the more desperate she became. She could not accept that Henry had moved on, that he had chosen me over her vision of what his life should be. She said in her messages that Henry was blinded by love, suggesting that his feelings for me were messing with his head. She called me a witch, implying I had some kind of hold over him and had messed up his thinking. It did not seem to matter to her that Henry loved me for who I really was or that we had created a life together. To Ida, I was not a loving wife. I was a villain who had manipulated him into cutting ties with his family. Her constant need to make herself the center of Henry's world made it impossible for her to understand that he had found happiness without her approval. What really struck me was when she compared me to his ex-girlfriend. She had always preferred Henry's ex, and now she was openly saying that he should have married her instead. She claimed that his ex was exactly like her. Apparently, she was this sweet person and would have been a perfect wife to him. But what it really meant was that Henry's ex was controlling and demanding, just like Ida had always been with Henry. She saw that woman as someone who could handle Henry, someone who would keep him in check, much the way she had tried to do for years. She could not accept that Henry had chosen someone else, someone who was not like her and who did not need to control him to feel important. As if that was not bad enough, the messages took a darker turn. Ida started calling me terrible names, throwing out every insult she could think of. The more I listened, the angrier I became. She had been toxic for years, but hearing her speak so cruelly about me was one thing. Hearing her speak about Ben was something else entirely. She called my innocent 7-year-old son hurtful names and called him worthless and someone else's discarded baggage. Ben had never done anything to hurt Idaho. He had only ever tried to play with her and call her grandma. I felt so bad hearing her speak about him like this. Ida did not hold back. Her messages took an even darker turn as she went on. By the end of one especially heated note, she actually said she hoped something bad had happened to Ben that day. She took him and Violet out. I could not believe the nerve of her words. It sent shivers down my spine. Hearing a person wish harm on a child was just unsettling. There was no excuse for such bitterness, and it made it clear just how far gone Ida really was. It was not just about control or even about Henry anymore. It was about her desire to hurt those who did not conform to her twisted version of reality. Right then, I realized I could not let Ida come around our family anymore. Those voicemails were not just her blowing off steam. They showed who she really was. She had always been manipulative and toxic, but now she felt like a real threat to us. Henry had already said he was done with her, but hearing her say such awful things made it clear we needed to cut off all connections. Anyone who could talk like that about a kid, especially a family member, did not belong in our lives. So, Henry sent her a text asking her to stay away from our family and he blocked her. We think he did the right thing. I was still willing to believe that Ida did not know whatever she bought, Ben, had traces of peanut, but now I'm convinced that she did it on purpose. And even if she did not know, it doesn't matter. She left my child alone when he was suffering. She ran away. She deserved whatever happened to her and worse. I am just upset we did not take any further action and I genuinely think that we should do something. Update 2. Hey, it has been a week since my last update. Things have only gotten worse. Avery called us really late the night before yesterday. She said that after Ida was released from jail, she immediately started flooding her with text messages. Dozens, in fact. At first, Avery had not responded to any of them. She knew that replying to Ida would only lead to more drama, but then she checked the texts. Ida had written pages and pages of accusations. She accused Avery of being ungrateful, something we had all heard before. To Ida, it was as though no matter how much Avery or anyone else had done for her, it was never enough. She felt entitled to support, and when she did not get it, she turned on everyone around her. Ida had this uncanny ability to make others feel as though they owed her something, especially after all the damage she had done. She played the victim instead of owning up to what she did, hoping for sympathy while completely ignoring the damage she had caused. Ida also wrote about how much she had sacrificed for everyone over the years, though she never actually gave specifics. Avery, who had been on the receiving end of this kind of behavior for years, was not buying it anymore. She knew Ida all too well. Then she wrote about me, obviously. Ida had always pointed fingers at me for her rocky relationship with Henry, but this time she took it up a notch. She put the blame on me for just about everything. According to her, I was not just Henry's wife, I was the one who was controlling him. In Ida's twisted mind, Henry had somehow become a puppet with me pulling all the strings. She said that he was blinded by love and that I had somehow taken over his life. Basically, She just copy-pasted her text from Henry to Avery. As if that was not already bad enough, she directed her anger at the kids once more. I had expected her to be cruel about Ben, but when she started talking about Violet, it was a total shock. Violet, after all, was just 7 years old. She was Avery's daughter, someone who had no part in the adult drama that was unfolding. But to Ida, Violet was just as much a problem as anyone else. Ida went on to say that Violet should have kept her mouth shut when she called me to tell me about what Ida did to Ben. She blamed Violet for exposing her and said she should have never gotten involved in matters that did not concern her. This was not just unfair, it was downright disgusting. Violet is just a kid and all she wanted was to keep her brother safe by being honest. What really took us by surprise was when Ida mentioned that Violet and Ben would have to pay for their actions. The meaning behind her words was vague, but the threat was clear. Avery and Henry were both stunned. What did she mean by pay? Did she mean emotionally or was this a direct threat to their safety? No one knew. But it was concerning. It was clear that we could not let this go any longer. Avery and Henry were both in shock, and we all knew that Ida was capable of anything. We could not let her continue to manipulate and threaten our families. Avery's husband, Victor, 40 male, who is a lawyer, immediately offered to help. He knew exactly what steps to take to make sure we could protect the kids and the rest of us from any further harm. Legal action was the only way forward. We knew it was not going to be easy, but at this point, it was the only choice. We had attempted to talk things out with Ida before, thinking she might come around, but it was obvious she was too far gone. She had been given so many chances and every single time she let us down. We just could not afford to give her any more chances to mess with, harm or intimidate the people we care about. So, with Victor's help, we began making plans for legal action. It was not about revenge, it was about protection. This was not about getting back at anyone, it was all about keeping our kids safe. We had to ensure that Ida would not be able to threaten or harm them. The choice was tough, but it was obvious that we had no other option. We could not allow Ida to continue without consequences. It was necessary to make her responsible for what she did, and pursuing legal action was the only way to prevent her from inflicting more harm. We had been tolerant for too long and now we needed to take action. We would not let her harm anyone else, particularly the children. The boundary had been crossed and it was time for her to face the repercussions of her behavior. Update 3. Hey guys, here's another update on the situation with Ida. I know a lot of you have been following this closely and I appreciate all the support. The past few weeks have been hectic, but we are making progress. I want to update everyone on our current situation. After everything Ida has done, the threats, the horrible things she has said about our family, especially the kids, we have made the decision to take legal action. We have officially filed a case against her and it feels like we have reached a point where we have no other choice. Ida's behavior has gone on for too long and we cannot just let her keep getting away with it. Avery's husband, Victor, has been an incredible help through all of this. Victor's going to represent us in this case. I cannot express how much it means to have someone like him on our side. We have already sent Ida a legal notice. This is a formal step in the process that officially informs her of the case we have filed against her. It also makes it clear that we are serious about what is happening and that there will be consequences for her actions. It's a way of letting her know she cannot just keep manipulating and frightening us without any repercussions. One thing we're hoping for is to avoid going to court if we can. The lawyers, Victor and Ida's lawyer, have chosen to attempt negotiation first to find a solution without going to court. However, this will not be simple. Everyone knows that Ida can be unpredictable and stubborn, making it hard to predict her response to the legal notice. We are still not sure what exactly Ida meant when she said that both Ben and Violet would pay for exposing her. But we are not taking any chances. We're taking every possible step we can to protect our families. In the meantime, we are doing everything we can to stay strong and stay focused. The next few weeks are going to be important and there is still a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen next. We want to make sure that Ida can never cause harm to anyone in our family again. I will continue to update everyone as things move along. Update 4. Hi, everyone. It's been a very long time since my last update. I know many of you have been asking how things are going with the case, and I am finally in a position to share what's been happening. The case has been ongoing for quite some time, so I was not allowed to post anything about it during that period. But now that it's all over, I can finally tell you what has been going on. Things started off with us filing a restraining order against Idaho. We thought that would be the first step to get her out of our lives for good, but as we quickly learned, a restraining order alone was not enough to stop her. She did not respect the boundaries we set, and in fact she actually violated the order. A few weeks after the restraining order was set in motion, Avery and I took Ben and Violet to the park to play. We thought it would be just a chill afternoon, a perfect time for the kids to play outside and soak up some sun. Little did we know it would spiral into another disaster with Idaho. We were at the park keeping an eye on Ben and Violet as they ran around when suddenly there she was, Ida, walking right towards us. I remember the shock I felt when I realized who it was. Somehow she had figured out we were there. She did not even bother to give us a heads up or reach out first. She just appeared acting like she owned the place. We immediately asked the kids to come and sit behind us on a bench. We knew a few of the mothers there and they knew about our situation, so they offered to keep an eye on the kids while we spoke to either. When she approached us, she immediately started saying that she just wanted to spend time with her grandkids. We told her in very clear words that we were not comfortable with that, especially considering the history we had with her. We made it clear that she was not welcome to spend any time with the kids. We had set up clear boundaries for a reason and we were not about to let her disregard them. And on top of that, we had a restraining order against her, so she was breaking the law. Ida definitely did not handle that